broken home. I gave you all the bricks that I own and know. I'm letting go. I'm breaking these walls down, breaking these walls down. If you want adventure, then fly to home. But if you wanna travel, then go alone. Yeah, what's the point in us if I never know? Yeah, if you're gonna leave, I'ma let you go. I'm tired of the pain. Go away. I'm done with yesterday. Harder, harder. I fell where my demons dwell. My own little nightmare, I call it hell. Oh well, it's time to get back up, climbing and climbing. I'm done with this ride, is what I tell myself, so I could feel something else. Yeah, I guess I had my bad days, but it doesn't mean I lost my style. Darling, where were you when my heart was on the ground? I thought time would prove that you would stick around. I guess time stood still, a king without his crown. Now I'm breaking, you're faking, girl. You never made a sound. I'm tired of the pain. Go away. I'm done with yesterday. Harder, harder.
Okay. Get this ball rolling here, ladies and gentlemen. Alrighty. Hey, Yusuf. I see the tweet from hashtag. Scotty P equalized for Northampton. Hey, Scotty P. There you go, my man. Scotty P. Scotty P is really good. Definitely deserves to be in Northampton. I hope he's doing well. Let's see. Need to switch to my main cam here. Let's do that. There we are. Hello, 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 everybody. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I hope everybody is doing absolutely fantastic here today. Hopefully everybody has been sitting and relaxing and chilling out today. A nice, not a bad day outside actually. Pretty decent. I ain't gonna lie. Um, Yusuf, my man, I hope you're doing good. I'm glad to see that alumni, hashtag alumni, are doing well as well. So, Scotty P being one of our first alumni, forward in a formal census. Okay. Good to see everybody. How's everybody? How was everybody's weekend? Hopefully everybody's weekend was really, really good. All right, I know we're gonna get started here in roughly about 5 minutes or so, and then we'll get moving with some new material, baby. All right. We're at a nice pace here. Hopefully, if anybody has any questions, by the way, please feel free to ask. I'll be more than happy to take them. Not a problem. All right. Yep, Scotty P was first in the academy, so first academy graduate. Like I said, when we have alumni who go on to do bigger and better things, we always should support them. 100%. When's the first quiz? We don't have quizzes in the class, NG. We just have tests and homework. And the final, of course. There are no quizzes. If you're talking about the exam, it's whenever the homework is going to be due, which I have not announced yet, because we haven't even gotten through the material yet. So once we finish up the first 3 chapters or so, then we'll go ahead and I'll make an announcement regarding when that's going to be due. Thank you for the hydrate. Yeah, that's what I'm referring to, Angie. Everything I'm talking about. Yep. Once I make an announcement regarding the due date for the homework, that's when the exam for that same homework is going to be due. So as I said before, chapter 1 to 3 is the first test. As we get through chapter 3, then I'll make an announcement. So, that's why there's not a due date kind of set yet. It just depends on our pace. Thank you for the posture check, SOS dude. Appreciate you. Thank you very much. Yeah, that's why it says in the syllabus that the homework is due the day of the corresponding test. I'll make everything due for that particular section on that particular day. So that's why there's no due dates technically set yet. So just please be patient with me, Angie. I promise you. I'll give you a fair bit of warning so that way you'll be prepared about when that due date's going to be. I will not leave you in the dark in terms of that information, okay? But once we got to make it there first, okay? We got to make it there first. Chapter 1 we can bang out of the way. Is chapters 2 and 3 that'll take us a little time, but not too much time, but a little time. Where can I find the syllabus? The syllabus is on D2L. SOS dude. So you'll have to type in distance. What is that again? DistanceLearning.com. Have a good one. You're watching my video on Business Calc, got a notification hosting. I see you've been watching my Business Calc lectures there on YouTube. Hopefully they've been helpful for you, Blink. Hopefully they've been helpful for you. I hope it makes some sense to you. Let me get that link for you. So SOS dude, you need to go to this link right here. Hey, hello, Yosin, hello. How's it going, Yosin? Yeah, you'll need to log in there, SOS Dude, with your login credentials with whatever they gave you, and then you'll have a link to your classes, all of them, if you're taking definitely more than one, definitely to my class, but all of them. You're starting your first year at uni in 1 week from today. Yes, yes, very good, very good. I'm very happy to hear that. That's wonderful. Isa, hello, good afternoon. Josie, if we have questions about certain questions in the homework, is it okay? We can ask for, yeah, of course you could ask me for my help. 100%, Josie. 100%. You always can ask for my help on homework. Okay, we could talk after class if you'd like, Josie, once we're done with the lecture today, and I can certainly help you out with some questions. Did you link to my Discord there? Did you link to my did you get the invite to my Discord there, Josie? Or I don't know if you did the Discord thing. Because then on after class we could talk on Discord, and then you can show me what questions that you have on the homework and stuff. Hola, ¿cómo estás, Gali? How are you doing? Julian, how was your weekend? My weekend was fantastic. Fantastic. There you go. There you go. Weekend was absolutely smashing. I had a great weekend, let me tell you. Anyhow, time to finish the video. Okay. You have a great class, Blink. I'm glad that my videos are very helpful, man. I'm glad they're very helpful. What I do this weekend, I played Final Fantasy XIV, and I just had a nice relaxing time. Paid a few bills off as well. Hey, thanks for the thumbs up there. Oh, do you, Josie? Oh, then Josie, feel free to email me if you want to ask, okay? If we don't have a chance to talk after class, then just email me, and then I'll take a look at the questions. I'll email you back, okay? Just any which way I can help you. Henry's like, oh, you're also skipping the homework. Well, you shouldn't do that. That's no bueno. Yeah, of course. Look, I'm here to help you guys. I told you from day one. Email me, contact me, Discord, whatever. You know, as long as it's able to help you, that's fine. Well, my weekend, like I said, my weekend was fun. But let me tell you one thing. Tomorrow is going to be the day. All right, that's going to be my fun day. All right, I had a pretty decent weekend with playing FF, but let me tell you, tomorrow on Wednesday is going to be the best day. Okay, the absolute best day. All right, because tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow, I am going to go see AEW Dynamite in Hoffman. That's where I'm going. All right. I'm going to go watch AEW Dynamite. I'm going to have a fantastic time. And I get to see CM Punk in person. That's legit. I am super excited just for that. That's all. Yeah, I bought some tickets before CM Punk was announced, and now he's announced. I'm like, oh my god, I gotta go to the Dynamite show. It's so dope. Like, oh yeah. Yup, AEW is amazing. AEW is better than WWE in my opinion. It's actually fun to watch. I like that stuff is mostly unscripted to a degree. You know, I like the fact that people can be creative with their characters. It's super fun to watch. It's super fun to watch. Oh my gosh. There you go. Oh my gosh, AEW is so much fun. All right. Henry, did you get the homework there, Henry? Let me ask you that first. Henry, did you get link to my math lab? You just asked that. I hope you did. So, all right. In any case, oh, okay, we're running a little over time here. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Let's do the intro. Let's get started. Let's get moving. All right. All right, let's do this. Okay, let's get started today. Welcome back to Tuesday. Hopefully you have a nice weekend. All right, so today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to keep moving on here in the textbook. Okay, so we did the first 3 sections here of Chapter 1. Just doing some definitions, getting that out of the way. Today we're going to finish up Chapter 1 and possibly go into Chapter 2. Okay, so again, the rest of Chapter 1 here is mostly just definitions, and more definitions. Things that are important to that certainly can, a realistic point of view, even with these definitions, certainly affect you on a daily basis, if you would believe it or not. All right, let's go ahead and take a look here. We're going to go to let's go to the big board. All right, let's go to the big board. RCS, yes, yay, indeed. All right, so let's go to the big board here. Last time, the very last thing that we talked about here from section 1.3 was talking about a simple random sample. No, I'm just checking out the stream and trolling a friend. All right, fair enough. I respect that, Henry. As long as this isn't good fun, no problem. So you can troll me too, it's fine. All right, I'm just going to throw it back in your face. Just how it works. Alright, so last time we talked about a simple random sample. So a simple random sample is a sample in which every member of the population has an equal chance of being selected. So again, as we talked about here, the random sample was like, okay, a person on the other side of campus has an equal chance of being selected as much as a person that is sitting in front of you. Alright, that to me is a simple random sample. Now, as I mentioned here at the end here last time, a simple random sample, albeit really great, is not that effective in certain situations, even when taking surveys in person. So what we do is we do certain types of sampling. In order to find the same sample size, we just may have a system behind it in order to do so. All right, let me turn this on here. On there. So, let's take a good look here at some types of sampling, some specific types of sampling, and we'll go ahead and see what we're working with. All right? Okay. Now, let's take a look at number 1 here. What is stratified sampling? So that's the first type of, subtype of sampling here. So, a stratified sample is basically a random sample that you choose based on an attribute or characteristic. So maybe you like, okay, you know what, I want to get a healthy mix of men and women as part of my survey about if they like brand A or brand B. So you're like, okay, fair enough. You pick, maybe it says, I want 50 men and I want 50 women for my sample of 100 people. So that's the characteristic you pick, and then you can break it down further if they like brand A or brand B and come up with some other results. All right. Now, it's not too bad. Let's take a good look here. My mail is, I need homework now. Are you going to torture yourself there? I'd feel terrible. All right. Let's take a look at number 2. Number 2 is, what is systematic sampling? All right, so let's describe how systematic sampling works. Systematic sampling works like this. It's a random sample in which you choose every kth individual from anywhere you want until you have your desired sample size. So you can start wherever you want here. All right, and then you pick every kth individual, but you're basically going to pick the system of the sample until you reach your final sample size. So let's say I want 100 people as part of my sample of my survey again. Now, let's say you have a line of people outside, and you want to ask them some kind of survey question or whatever. All right, then you can start from any person in line. It doesn't have to be the first person in line. You could pick the 10th person in line or the 5th person in line. And let's say you want to pick every 5th person after that as to being part of your survey. So you pick this guy here. So as I put down here, it's like, all right, you pick every 5th person in line, and you could start at the 4th person. You pick the 4th person is first to take your survey. Then you pick the 9th person in line. Then you pick the 14th person line. That's 5 more people. And then 5 more people after that will be the 19th person. And then 5 more people after that will be the 24th person, and so on and so forth until you reach your sample size of 100 people as part of your survey. Okay, so that is, in effect, systematic sampling. You're making a system to grab those amount of people you want to do your study with. Okay, and again, by the way, it's completely random. Okay, those people that whatever their responses are random. All right, so again, there's that. Okay, the next type here is cluster sampling. Cluster sampling basically is you randomly select all individuals with a collection or a group of individuals. So you could arrange the people in a certain area. Like you could say, this group of people here is in the first row, this group of people is second row, third row, last row, okay? And then you could say, well, if I want to pick you as part of my sample, then I'm going to pick, say, the back row of people who are going to be part of my sample or part of my survey. So hence the example you see down there below. And again, so basically you categorize the people in the room, you set them into clusters of people based on some attribute, characteristic, or whatever, and then you select a cluster of those people to be part of your sample. Again, completely random on how you choose. Okay, if I said, hey, I just want the first row of people to be part of my sample, you could pick the first row, maybe first column of desks instead of first. Maybe I said, okay, I'm just going to, collectively put it in age groups, and I'm only going to pick people between 18 and 34. Okay, that's fine. So you got choices about how you can do clustering, and then pick a random cluster based off of that. Narseek, thank you for the follow. All right. Okay. Now, the next one here is talking about a sample of convenience. All right. So let's talk about a sample convenience here. So number 4, what is sample of convenience? So this is a sample that you acquire in which individuals are easily obtained and not based on randomness. Now let's talk about what that means. Now let's talk about the example I put here. The grocery store survey at the front of the store. Let's think of it in a more realistic sense. If you had to give a survey in front of a store, okay, and you're sitting at the entrance of the store, and you say, you're handing out surveys, and you're trying to say, okay, maybe you're at a Jewel or whatever, and you're like, okay, tell me how Jewel is doing, or tell me how this grocery store is doing. Give us some feedback about our service, or whatever. It could be literally anything. Then, essentially, the thing is that you maybe want to hand out surveys. Maybe not. You don't want to go to the back of the store buy the milk, and you don't want to hand a survey to them. Although it's random, all right. Although it's random, it's totally true. It's random on who you choose. But I think it would be a lot easier if I asked people who are just coming in the door, so I could just be as lazy as possible, and I could just give them a survey and then have them fill it out for the store as part of my survey. All right, it's a lot easier and hence a lot more convenient for me to do so rather than run around the store like a chicken with its head cut off and trying to pass out surveys here, there, and everywhere. So, again, hence why we call it the sample of convenience. All right, so there is that. Are there any questions so far, by the way? Any questions so far? No? Okay. Just let me know if you have any questions. If I'm going too fast, then stop me and ask, okay? All right. Okay. Let's go ahead and move on here to number 5. All right, let's look at number 5 here. What's next? Second. All right. Number 5, what is voluntary response sampling? All right. So voluntary response sampling is that a sample that you acquire asking a question, such as an email or a phone call. So I typically put this as an example here, like talk show questions. So if you ever watch a talk show, and then, you could watch Maury, or you could watch like Steve Wilkos or whatever. And sometimes they'll put a number on the screen. They're like, okay, what do you think about such and such story, or what do you think about, do you think that he or she did this or that? And then, of course, you email, you call in, and you have your reaction to that particular program. Okay, so it's pretty common to get these voluntary responses. Maybe, heck, even maybe you got a phone call to say, can one say cluster sampling is a sample of convenience? No, cluster sampling is not a sample of convenience, because what you do is, in a sample of convenience, you're basically looking for, think of it this way, a sample of convenience, you're looking for the lazy way out. In a cluster sample, you do have to do a little bit of work before you actually select the cluster of people. So you have to categorize those people first based on some attribute or characteristic, and then select those group of people just like so. So albeit it looks easier, you do have to do a little bit of work in comparison between the two. And again, it's a little bit more, again, the other thing is that cluster sampling is still random in nature, whereas sample convenience is not completely based on randomness. It's completely based on who's there in front of you and who's not, basically. So you're not really picking people at random truly, because you're just picking people who are in front of you. Whereas, in simple random sample, everyone should have an equal likelihood of being selected. In a sample convenience, that's not completely the case. So, hence why I don't consider cluster sampling to be a sample convenience, and why they're not really the same. But that's a very fair question, Shioma. Any other questions about that? Hopefully that was pretty clear. So, and about, again, voluntary response sampling. Voluntary response sampling is also a little bit less random as well. You do get a lot of responses for how you feel, but again, it's not as random as you think, because you are asking people to like give your response, and there is an issue with voluntary response sampling in comparison to others. So there's a little bit of an issue. It depends on how you ask the question in some cases. Are you going to get a good cross-section of people? What's your methodology about how you're asking? So, what was number 3 real quick? That was the cluster sampling there, Fritz. That was cluster sampling. All right. Any other questions before we move forward? Nope. All right. Okay. Let's move forward then. Okay. So the next thing we're going to talk about here is probably one of the most important subjects. One of the most important subjects that we're going to discuss here. All right, guys, you guys got to make sure you write this down as I go through. Yeah, just take a pick. All right, so now I'm going through these, but make sure you write them down, or again, take a picture if you're not sure. All right, I'm gonna show that on screen, and then I gotta move forward. All right, cool. Okay, so let's look at number 6 here. Let's talk about bias. All right, bias is one of the most important things that we need to look at here in statistics, and heck, even on an everyday basis, bias is an extremely important topic that certainly is applicable to a lot of things that are happening today. Let's talk about number 6. What is biased and unbiased? Well, as basic definitions here, in terms of statistics anyway, biased basically reflects that results do not reflect or represent the population. Okay, so in a statistical point of view, maybe not an everyday point of view, but a statistical point of view is that, whatever results we get, it doesn't actually reflect the entirety of the population. Maybe the entirety of the population does not actually think in that way. So hence why where we get a biased result. Unbiased, just the opposite. It does reflect the population as a whole. And that's perfectly fine. All right. Now, the more important part here is, beside these two definitions here, and again, let's be honest with ourselves, in terms of an everyday definition, bias is like, bias, you can kind of think of it as you have preferences. You have strong preferences toward, thinking, maybe you have an ideology or you think a certain way. Maybe you like a certain food in a certain way. All right, biases, you have that predilection to go, lean one direction or the other, regardless. And we're not here to talk about, politics or stuff like that. That's not contained within the course. What we are going to talk about is just the idea behind it, all right? And some important concepts behind types of bias that certainly you can run into, whether that be statistics or an everyday thing. All right, now the first few we'll talk about in terms of statistics. So let's talk about number 7, sources of bias. So let's talk about, first of all, non-response bias. All right, so non-response bias is basically, this happens when not enough people participate in the study. So you ask the question, and let's answer this question here really quick. You guys tell me a quick yes or no. If I gave a survey and only 10 people answered my survey, do you think that you could draw a conclusion from only 10 people answering a survey? You can say, hey, do you like brand A or brand B? Do you think 10 people's responses is going to tell you how the rest of the population feels? Yes or no? Right. Definitely not, right? Not really? Yeah. 10 people isn't going to tell you squat. All right. As much as you're like, okay, they answer truthfully in the response, but there's just not enough people to draw a conclusion. All right. If there's 100,000 people in town, then 10 people's opinions ain't going to matter any. All right. At the end of the day, unfortunately, it doesn't reflect the town of 100,000. All right. So, not big enough sample size. You got to be careful about that. All right. The next one here that's listed is the response / social acceptability bias. This social acceptability is another way to talk about response bias. This is when the responses to the question do not reflect the true feelings of the individual. Now, you're probably saying, whoa, whoa, whoa. What do you mean by that? How do you get a question that looks like that? Let's think about this in context. I'm going to put up a poll here for you guys, okay? And you can answer this as honestly as you like, okay? Let's put up this poll here. All right. This is as simple of a question as possible. All right, we'll put it as a 2-minute timer, so I'll give you time to think about it. Ooh. Let's try and see if we can. All right, there we go. Got it. All right, so there's a poll created up top. Question is, do you smoke weed? That is the question I'm going to ask you. Do you smoke weed? Okay. Now, I don't care how you answer this, okay? I have no skin in this game, all right? You smoke weed, yes or no? All right? Like I said, there's no judgment here about how you want to answer, all right? I honestly don't care if you smoke. Personally, if you ask me, I'm a supporter of the legalization of marijuana, just because there are more harder drugs out there. Weed is illegal here. I don't care if weed is illegal. I'm not asking you that question if weed's illegal or not. I've been in countries where weed is illegal. That's fine. Look, if you smoke weed, that's fine with me. I have a good friend who smokes weed, and it's like, hey, I'm good friends with him, and I don't judge him that he smokes weed because that's his business and it ain't mine. So it's not like I'm gonna get in his grill and be like, oh yeah, you smoke weed. I hate you. Like, that doesn't make any sense. And in terms of a guy, he's a really nice guy. He's one of my good friends, and he's an awesome dude. So, legal or illegal has no bearing on this question, at least from where I'm sitting. So, all right. So we got about like 25 seconds. Again, you can answer that yes or no. Do you smoke weed? Do you smoke marijuana? Marijuana. Let's call Mary Jane, grass, the whole. I think ganja is another slang term. Ganja. Yeah. All right. in any case, let's take a look at this here. Now, 12 people said no, they don't smoke weed. 5 people said yes, they smoke weed. Now let's sit from this perspective here. All right, so let's go to the I'm gonna go to the big word here. Second here. All right, let's talk about perspective here. I've asked you this question, and you've answered you've answered truthfully here. You say, hey, I don't smoke weed, or yeah, I smoke weed. To me, like I said, I'm not here to judge you based on your choices on what you want to do. That's cool with me. All right, now, at the end of the day, I've asked you this question, and you understand that there's no skin in the game for me. All right, it's just a question that you answered yes or no to, and then that's it. Now, let's change the perspective here for just a moment. Let's change the perspective. Let's say instead of just a regular dude like me, let's say that instead of being teacher, whatever the heck you want to call me, smelly dude. Let's say I'm in the position of authority. Let's say I'm a police officer, and I ask you, do you smoke weed? What are you going to tell me? Post that in the chat. What are you going to tell me? Now I'm going to change perspective. Now I'm a police officer, and I ask you, do you smoke weed? What are you going to tell me? Are you going to answer me truthfully? Yes or no? Are you going to answer me truthfully to that question? Now you tell me whatever won't get me the... Yeah, that's right. You would never. Yeah. You're right, Athena. You would never. No, right? Yeah, you're absolutely right, right? Sarah's like, I don't, but I'm still wouldn't anyway. No. Okay. So even if you did, right? You would have like I would literally have a poll here if I was a police officer. I said, okay, zero people would tell me yes, and 17 people would tell me no. American cop or German cop? Well, let's say it's an American cop, because I know different countries, different rules. So if it was like if it's an American cop, Come on, guys, y'all are lying. I don't care if you lie about it. Look, that's neither here nor there. But to be fair, that's neither here nor there. Like, bro, if you took a hit up of something and you got hungry late at night, and you ate Taco Bell at 3 in the morning and told me a story about it, I'd be like, all right, cool, man. I could tell you the stories myself. Friend had many stories. But yeah, you're not going to tell them the truth. So if it's a survey that you feel either the answer is very yeah, but at the end of the day, you're gonna feel very embarrassed. You're gonna feel a little bit threatened, especially you could get arrested if you say, yeah, I smoke weed or something like that. Then you feel like you're gonna get in a lot of trouble. You're not gonna tell the truth, whether it be somebody who's saying a survey and they have some skin in the game, or not. Okay, so or not like me. I don't really have any skin in the game, so you're probably gonna be more truthful to me than you would a police officer, and it's just natural, right? That's natural. You have that apprehension of saying, hey, I didn't do this thing that was illegal or something. So that is part of response / social acceptability bias, and that certainly can happen quite often. So that can happen in a survey where the topic can be extremely sensitive, or again, a position of authority kind of example. All right. So hopefully they get the right perspective there. Now, there is one more type of bias I want to talk about, which is not listed in the textbook, but is actually extremely important. When you thought social acceptability bias was a thing, well, if you're talking about probably the most important type of bias that we see on an everyday basis, is this. And that is talking about confirmation bias. Switch to the other screen here. Let's talk about confirmation bias. All right. Now, what is confirmation bias? Confirmation bias is like saying if you surround yourself with like-minded individuals, or content that promotes your point of view, and it affirms of what you believe in. I guess I'll put that as kind of an addendum here. This is one of the most dangerous types of bias that is currently affecting our society every single day. You're probably wondering, how is that uniquely possible? Well, an example, as I put down here, is your Facebook feed. Let's think about it this way. A Facebook feed is algorithmically designed to post content of which the things that you like. Even on Instagram, it's the same thing. Even if you go on TikTok, it's the same thing, guys. If there's content that you like, creators that you like, you're going to get other random posts from people of those like-minded sort of things. All right, so if it's like, say, cosplay, then maybe you'll get more posts from other cosplayers, say, on TikTok or whatever. Okay, and that's perfect, and that's part of the system. That's how they can gear, ads to you or whatever. They can talk about makeup or cosplay materials or whatever. Fine, it is what it is. This is also true for belief systems as well. So, for example, if you have a particular point of view and you happen to roll around forums and you're like, okay, I believe, X, I'm really say what, then you'll probably get articles and posts and links that will say, okay, hey, this article represents, hey, look, this says about X and it shows this opinion here, and usually that opinion usually corresponds to what you think. And this happens to occur on both sides of the aisle, whether it be, right or left, or heck, right or wrong, or I don't know what you want to call it. I don't even call it right or wrong because many things are usually within the gray area of stuff anyway. But have you guys, I think the best way to put it is, Facebook is not as bad as Google searches that are tailored to your beliefs via cookies of truth. Facebook is harmless compared to that? I disagree. I disagree very wholeheartedly. Facebook is just as bad. I could say, yeah, okay, you could make a contention, yes. Google searches are pretty awful. Like, yeah, sure, because you can pay to put your link on top on Google. Like, that's not too big of an issue. The real issue that I'm trying to make here is that, in a sense, what do those Facebook feeds and what do those things do for you? Well, you probably have heard the classic line of being in an echo chamber. All right. Has anybody heard of an echo chamber? I'm pretty sure you guys have. If you're on Twitter, it's the same deal, folks. That's why Twitter is pretty toxic as it is. So, because of confirmation bias. How many times, think about it this way. Think about it from your own personal point of view. How many times do you go to the same websites, the same links, the same places over and over again? The internet is a vast and huge place, but you find yourself going to the same places over and over again, right? There's places that you like, just like food you like, right? There's food that you like and there's things that you don't like. So, of course, if somebody asks you, why don't you try this new food, you're going to be averse to it because it's not what you like, right? If somebody says, well, I like steak, so I want to have steak, like, okay, I was like, why don't you try squid? Oh, squid. Even though you never had it in your life. You said, oh, squid, it sounds gross. Like, that's a bias. Like, hey, you haven't tried it, so how do you know you won't like it? Okay. So, this is like I said, this is why a lot of people tend to be on opinions, in terms of opinions, happens to be on maybe some extreme ends, so it's like maybe you're extremely opinionated about a particular topic on one end. But how did you get to this extreme one-sidedness about a particular topic? Well, you got there because of this confirmation bias. Because you're always in an echo chamber where everybody tells you you're right, and you're always saying, oh, well, everybody's telling me I'm right. That's awesome. Okay, you're so great. Well, then you're never going to listen to somebody who may have a counterpoint to that. And so what you need is actual discourse. You need an actual argument, not like an argument where you come to fisticuffs. You need an actual argument where you debate each other on that particular topic or whatever the case may be. There's always going to be differing opinions. This is true. But I think having a civil argument is also just as important to bring both points to the forefront. But not having these extreme reactions at the same time. That's why confirmation bias to me happens to be one of the biggest, most prevalent things that happens to be in society today that is particularly dangerous to everyone. And you can find this out, find that out fairly quickly. Any questions about that? I think anybody catch themselves in that kind of thing? These notes are not in D2L. Those are blank notes. What you see on D2L are blank notes there, Juan. I put blank notes there and then I fill them out as I go through the lectures. So what you'll see is blank questions, just not it filled in. That's all. Has anybody found themselves trolling the same websites or going to the same websites? What do you guys think? Is confirmation bias a thing for you? Do you think you've caught yourself in that trap before? Everybody has, I think, in one way, shape, or form. But what do you guys think? Tell me your opinion. What do you guys think? Do you believe that? Do you believe you've been? Do you believe that that's true today? Do you believe that opinions are more extreme than they have been in the past? You guys can type out whatever you like, so I don't mind. Like I said, that's the part of discourse that's important. Have you guys found yourself in that situation? Especially in social media, right? Now think about it from your personal perspective, okay? Do you feel that you found yourself in that situation where you've fallen victim to confirmation bias? Do you feel you found yourself leaning in one direction or another? Facebook is more well known, that's true. Yeah, so that's essentially what a lot of social media has done to us, whether it be through, as Henry said, Google, Facebook, TikTok, or Instagram, or whatever. Okay, so, pick one, and I'm pretty sure you find yourself there. Yeah, a few times, right? It's an easy trap to fall underneath. So the question is, let's talk about this here. If you're aware that this thing exists, like this confirmation bias exists, what do you do to kind of break that cycle? Because admittingly, that can be very, very daunting to do. Athena, take care, okay? We'll see you later. Don't worry, come on back, all right? I'll be on later. So how do we break that cycle there? Well, to break that cycle is to start looking from both perspectives. That's the only way to break the cycle. Instead of thinking that everything has to be one way, social media almost tries to force that upon you. Well, that's the thing. You don't have to let it force it upon you. So if I told you, I said, okay, let me go and show this off here. So I could go to CNN. Now, CNN, admittingly, is more of a left-leaning website, okay, more Democratic heavy, okay? So there's going to be a certain slant in media articles on CNN that talks, when we talk about politics and stuff like that. Like I said, I'm not talking about political topics here, but I'm talking about exactly, it's a more of a left-leaning kind of website. So you could read an article, let's say you're reading an article here about President Biden, talking about, this, that, and the other thing. That's fine. And then maybe, what I like to do is I like to read articles on here, but I want to get a different perspective. And of course, being two sides of the aisle, I go to the other website here, which is the Drudge Report. All right. So you can see how things are written here. Actually, it's actually pretty good. And that is why I think Google changing results for you is worse than Facebook recommending stuff that you like. Yeah, that's true, because it's tougher to sift through. I'm not going to lie. So that's why you got to be a little bit consistent on where you want to kind of get your sources from. But you want to have it being opposing sources, so that way, as I was going to say here with Drudge Report is a very right-leaning website. Okay, it's more of a conservative website in terms of its articles and whatnot. So then I could kind of read between the lines and then see what the truth really is between both sides of the aisle, and then kind of understand both perspectives. So that way I'm not always getting from one point of view, I'm getting from 2 points of view, and then I can make my own determination on what the point of view is going to be. And that's the difference. I want you to understand, I'm not telling you what point of view to think about. That's not what I'm doing here in this class. I'll never tell you to do that, okay? What I am going to tell you is that make that determination yourself once you see both perspectives. And Henry's right. Google doesn't make it easy. 100% it doesn't make it easy when you're trying to get through and sift through results. It's pretty difficult. So you got to make a concerted effort to go ahead and do that. All right. And so this is the way I make my kind of concerted effort when it comes to, say, politics. I make it easy. I try to see from both sides, and if I gotta dig a little bit more, I gotta dig a little bit more. All right. Yes, it does take more time, but at the end of the day, am I getting a proper perspective from how both sides are viewing a particular topic? Yes. Okay. And there's some things that conservatives say that I agree with, and there's some things that Democrats say that I agree with. So it's not like to say, I'm all one side or I'm all second side. Like, that doesn't make any sense. So I look at both sides, and sometimes points, are both a thing. So that's basically how it is at the end of the day. All right, so that's about confirmation bias there. All right, any questions about that? We'll move forward here, but any questions? Again, at the end of the day, please think for yourselves and please make those conclusions for yourselves. I will not tell you how to think. That is not what this class is for. This class is to hopefully educate you, but I would always suggest 1000%, please think for yourselves. Please make your own conclusion. And so the way you make your own conclusion, look at both sides, then see what you think after that. All right, good stuff. Okay, let's go to question 8. Question 8 says, what are types of experiments? All right, we did talk about this last week. We did talk about kind of randomized experiments here. So types of experiments that we run into are, say, single blind and double blind experiments. Okay, again, where again the treatment group here, and we have a control group and a treatment group. Single blind is where the researchers know who got what treatment and who didn't. Double blind means nobody knows who got what. Okay, we did. Again, I'll just briefly talk about that. That's pretty much it. All right. The last two here, especially the last one, we'll talk about the last one here in a second. Let's look at number 9. What is a completely randomized design? It's pretty much the same thing that we talked about earlier in this chapter. Again, it's a random design that basically designed the experiment with a random control group and a random treatment group. So you randomly selected the people who would get, like, let's say it's a clinical trial. Again, you're testing a drug. You're selecting a random number of people who didn't get the drug, who got the placebo, and then you're selecting a random group here about who actually got the actual medicine. Okay, so one group placebo, like sugar pills, like didn't really get the drug, and then the other actually got the drug, and then you can compare and contrast them. All right. The other one here is something that we'll talk about here, this last question here for chapter 1. And this is a question that we'll see later on in the book in a limited capacity, but we'll see this later on a little bit. So we could talk about it in this case, and that's talking about a matched pairs design. So what is a matched pairs design? This is a type of experiment where one person from the control group is paired with one person from the treatment to compare and contrast with. So a good example is, let's say you're trying to make a medicine for, let's say, diabetes. Okay, and you're saying, okay, I want to be able to control diabetes, I want you to control insulin, the whole 9 yards. Well, in order to make a proper compare and contrast, maybe you pick 2 diabetic patients that have a similar health profile or have similar health histories. You could say, they both have diabetes, maybe one has maybe they both have heart disease with the similar conditions, and you want to pick one person would not get the drug and one person does get the drug. And because they have similar health profiles or health histories, then you can compare and contrast to see what the effect of the drug is going to be. So that's why you match those two people together in order to get more conclusive results. So it's very, very effective in terms of saying, oh, it did significantly improve, you know, um, balancing, controlling their person's diabetes, for example, compared to if they weren't taking the medicine. Or this does help with, maybe there's other effects. This does help with heart disease, something like that. So there you go. Any questions? Any questions about chapter 1? That effectively is the end of chapter 1. So, any questions about chapter 1? Hopefully, easy peasy, lemon squeeze. I certainly can. Roll number 9. All right. Okay. If there are no questions here, we're going to move on to the first section here of chapter 2. Like I said, most of chapter 1 and why this went so fast is, again, most of chapter 1 is all about definitions, and more definitions. Now we'll get to the actual numerical portion of the program here, which is chapter 2. Okay. We'll actually be doing numbers here in some capacity today. I know it's a miracle, but we make it. All right, good stuff. Let's go to section 2.1 here. We'll start off with that and then work our way up. Okay. Juan's like, I want definitions again. What do your students need to learn of that? Do they need to know about them? Yeah, just knowing the definitions. So just knowing the definitions, and then so if I give you a scenario, then you know what it. I'm not asking too much here, Henry. So I promise you that. I'm just asking, hey, what's the definition, or what's a single blind, double blind, or something like that. It's not like I'm asking for a whole ton. It's probably, it's just like a multiple choice question. Probably I'll ask them. It's not a big deal. No big deal. I promise you that. Okay. So, let's talk about today. We're going to talk about in chapter 2. In chapter 2, we're going to talk about the basics here of statistics. Now, the first basics that we need to talk about statistics is discussing about how to arrange data. Okay, so we're going to, let's say we did a survey, we want to arrange the data in such a way and be able to get some conclusions based off of that data. All right, so we're going to be just looking at how we organize it and then seeing what kind of pattern we can kind of put together. All right, so let's look at question 1 here. In order to understand this, let's take a look at question 1. Question 1 says, what is frequency and frequency distribution? Okay, so frequency is how often something occurs in a category or classification. Okay, so let's say we have different categories. How many times does that occur in that particular category? You could do a simple chart, a simple table, and then that's what frequency is going to represent. He says, okay, this occurred 2 times, fine, and 2 is your frequency. A frequency distribution is basically the chart or table as referenced just a second ago with those categories and those frequencies listed forward. Now, let's do a simple example here, at least to look at what a frequency distribution is, just on piece of paper. All right. It's not, pick that because that's giving me issues. All right. I'm scared if I use Paint 3D, it's going to shut down the stream. So I'm going to use this. Okay. All right. So here, let's go ahead and use the Paint tool here. All right. And we're going to go ahead and see exactly how this is going to work out. Let me. All right. Hey, good evening, Dylan. How are you, my friend? Pretty late where you're at, my man. It's almost 11 o'clock British Standard Time. I hope you're doing fantastic, though, Dylan. All right. Now, let's take a look at a group of data. All right. So let's make up some random. Let's say we're looking at a group of test scores. Okay. So let's look at a group of test scores. So I'm just going to write down some random numbers that reflect some test scores. And we're going to go ahead and put them together in a frequency distribution and see what we're working with. All right. So let's go with 73, 87, 82, 57. It's almost midnight German time. Hey, you're up late watching this scrub. I appreciate that though. Thank you, Henry. Super nice of you to even be awake and watching me stream a class. 69, 70, and let's pick. Totally dedicated. Doing good. Somebody who I was in contact with, I said, "Oh no, tested positive, so you went for a test. Oh dear." This is still number one here, Hisa. Still number one. I'll get to number two here, but still number one. 170, 85, 80, and 63. All right. And I think everybody can sympathize with that, Dylan, especially when we were in lockdown last year, where basically nobody knew what time was because everybody was locked in their house for about a month. So time kind of went by. I don't think anybody knew what time was during that month or two. Everybody was stuck in their house. I could tell you I didn't know what the heck was going on. So outside, in all honesty. 9 times? Yikes. Holy. Let's cross our fingers. Let's cross our fingers, okay? Let's cross our fingers. We don't want to wish that on anyone. All right. Okay, so these are our test scores here. I just randomly made these numbers up. I said that's okay. It is what it is. All right. Now, I am going to point out a couple of things here before we start this here. The first thing I want to point out here is that each one of these scores that you see here for like test scores, these are going to be referred to as data items. Okay, so you'll hear me reference the word data items. And data items here is going to talk about, again, the specific individual scores or pieces of data. All right, so this is the individual pieces of data. Okay, and then you'll also hear me say data set. Okay, the data set is basically exactly as it sounds, is all the pieces of data put together in the group. So the group of data items. Okay. Okay, so I'll be saying that quite a bit here, not just, of course, in today's lecture, but you'll hear me say that in a lot of different other concepts that we're seeing here in other sections and chapters. So I just want you to get comfortable with this now that I need to introduce it here. Again, data, items, and data set. Okay. So how are we going to arrange this data set and putting it into a frequency distribution? So what we're going to have here is we're going to have on the left-hand side, we're going to have the scores here. All right. And then on to the right of that, we're going to have a frequency. Okay. Okay. Now, if you were to look at test scores here, let's be realistic for just a moment here. If we were to look at test scores, how do you think we could arrange test scores? What are some ways that you would arrange test scores here? What are some ways that you could arrange test scores? Hey, it's King Sheeran. There you go, buddy. Thank you very much. I hope you're doing fantastic. All right, low to high. Totally agree. Okay. What's another way we could look at test scores, by the way? Low to high is correct. I don't disagree with that. What's another way we could arrange test scores besides low to high? Ascending order? Well, that's the same thing. Again, low to high. How else could we view test scores here? How do you view a test score? So let's say you got a particular score. Let's say you got a 95 on the score. How would you view that? Would you just view it as a 95? Yeah, you could view it as a grade, right? You could say like, "Hey, I got a 95, so I got an A on the test." Right? So I'd be like A, B, C, D, F, right? Right? So you'd be like A, B, C, D, F. That'd be another way to kind of view the scores. All right? A fraction, how would you view it as a fraction? Out of curiosity. I'm actually curious. Percentage, okay, percentage, yeah. These would be reflective of percentages. So say 95 would be 95%. And divide the quantity. Okay, so you look at like the average maybe. But we'll talk about that later. Okay. Over 100. Cheated to genuine. Well, you know me too well, Henry. Henry, you know me too well. Like, let me look at the person who got a 98. You totally cheated, okay? You totally cheated. You half-assed it, okay? Shame on you. Shame. All right, class average, yeah. All right. Now those are all very valid ways to go ahead and arrange the data, whether it be grades, whether it be ascending order, whether it be looking at class average and comparing all the guys. Fine. Let's also look at it this way. I'm going to put this down here. Another way to arrange this data, at least to look at the frequencies, is to look at the ranges of scores in each individual category. So, for example, here, let's say I'm talking about all the scores in the 50s. So let's say the scores here between 50 and 59. Okay, so let's say I look at all the scores here between 50 and 59, and then that'll be fine. I could look at all the scores in the 60s, 60 to 69. Fair? I could look at all the scores here between 70 to 79. All right, pretty reasonable. All right. Next here, 80 to 89. That's fine. Maybe I look at this last one here from 90 to 99. All right, seems fair. Okay. Now, let's say I wanted to take a look here at my data set here off to the left, and I said, all right, how many scores that we see here are between 50 and 59? So taking a look at the data set here, how many scores are between 50 to 59 according to our table? Okay. Good, good, good. So the answer here is definitely 2, right? Right. So you see that 57, all right, and 52, those are the only 2 scores in our data set that are between 50 to 59. Seems fair. So that's going to be our frequency for that particular category, all the scores in the 50s. So That's our frequency of 2. Let's take a look here. How many scores do we have in the 60s? How many scores do we have between 60 and 69? How many scores do we have in the 60s? All right. So the answer here is definitely 3. That's right. Looking through, we have a 60, we have a 69, and we have a 63. Seems fair. Perfect. Okay. Let's take a good look here at the 70s. How many scores do we have in the 70s? How many scores do we have in the 70s? All right. All right, very good. The answer is definitely 4. Excellent. So far, so bueno. All right. Next, how many scores do we have in the 80s? How many scores are in the 80s? Okay. Very nice. There are definitely 5 scores here in the 80s, as we can see here on our data set. Nice work. Perfect. Time to get a good number in my sleep statistic. Thank you. Henry, thank you so much for coming by. It's really super kind of you. Thank you so much, my friend. I hope you have a nice night. Um, and say hello to all your friends and your family there over in Germany. All right. Let's take a look here at 90 to 99. How many scores do we have in the 90s? All right, we got 2. All right, perfect. Very nice. Okay, easy peasy. Now, as you can see here on our little table, we have all the frequencies for all the categories. And there you go. As you see right there, that is going to be effectively our frequency distribution. We have went ahead and put this together. All right. So that answers question 1 here. We still got another question to go here, but another couple questions. But are there any questions about this so far? Any questions about this? We'll move forward here from here, but again, okay, good. All right. Okay. Now I'm gonna go ahead and split screen this. I'll split screen this with the handout here, because we're gonna have to make a slight bit of a change there. All right, there we go. So I can see what's going on. All right. Now, the next part here, we'll move forward here. The next part here is going to talk about number 2. Number 2 talks about how do we calculate relative frequency. So relative frequency basically is you take the frequency in the category, or you can also call it the word class. We'll talk about how that works. So the categories here being like all the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. So the frequency in the category / class, whichever way you want to call it, and divided by the sum of the frequencies. Now, I want you to take a look here at the sum of the frequencies here first. Now, if we took these frequencies here and we added them up together, so 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 2, if we add those up together here, we get a total of 16. And so you should make sure that you got all the data items in the data set represented, meaning to say, notice that there are 16 scores in the data set, so our frequency should add up to 16 at the end of the day if we did the frequency distribution correctly. So again, 16 data items in the data set. Let's see, screen here for a moment. 16 data items in the data set should equal the 16 should equal 16 here, the sum of all the frequencies. Now, to go along with that, split screen again. If we're going to use relative frequency, like we see here, using this, we're going to go ahead and basically take that frequency. So we'll make another column here. Call this relative frequency. I'll paraphrase for space. And so if we're going to find out what each of these relative frequencies are, we're going to take this 2. That's how many scores were in the 50s here, according to our frequency distribution, and we'll divide that by 16. Now, what I would like here in this case, specifically is I do want a decimal here. So we're gonna go to decimal places here. We'll talk about decimal places here because I put a note there, but we'll come back to that in a second. Can anybody tell me what's the decimal equivalent here of 2 over 16? 2 over 16 here. Can anybody tell me what the decimal equivalent's going to be? I do want the decimal here for this one. I'll let you know why after we do these. So if you need to bust out your calculator, bust out your calculator. That's fine. I don't mind. That's what it's going to be helpful for here. 0.125. Okay, good. Fine. So we're going to write that down. All right. The last one here is also 2, so I'll just go ahead and mark that out. Okay. Let's do the next one here. Let's do 3 out of 16. 3 over 16 here is going to be, all right, Pistache says 0.1875. Okay. I definitely didn't ask my sister. Wait, wait. Hmm. you know, Dylan. You guys could have just plugged it. It's totally not sus that you couldn't pick up your phone and then use the calculator app on your phone and just do it. That would have been faster than just asking your sister. I'm just saying. You know, observations and all. All right, 0.1875. I would ask my sister, but she wouldn't know either. The amount of faith Angie has in her sister has been borne fruit. Oh my goodness. I could see Angie going up to her sister like, I know you wouldn't know the answer to this question because you're dumb as bricks. Like, oh, jeez. That would be hilarious. It'd be so silly to even say. Sounds accurate. Sounds accurate. Sis, you're dumb. I'm not asking you nothing. All right, 4 out of 16. What's 4 out of 16? Jeez. So 4 out of 16. 0.25. Okay, good. 0.25. All right. Okay, and what is a 5 out of 16? 5 divided by 16 here. 5 over 16. 5 divided by 16. What is that going to be? 0.3125. Okay, good. Now, why did I ask you for these decimals? Let's talk about why I've asked you for decimals here for each one of these. The reason is because the relative frequency here technically reflects a percentage. Okay, so I could say here, this represents 0.125 represents 12.5%. So you could say 12.5% of the data items in the data set are between the scores of 50 to 59. Okay, so again, if you add all these up here, Okay, since each of these represents a percentage or a decimal of some variety, essentially at the end of the day, you should get 1, which would reflect 100%. Or, again, you'll get close to 1 here because maybe you'll do some rounding if you have weirder numbers, or again, a weirder frequency. If you had 17, it would be much more strange than 16. I think we all agree. So, um, again, if you get approximately 1 or you get exactly 1, then you know you've done the relative frequency here correct. Now, one thing I do want to point out here that is very important for a lot of the things that we'll do here in this class in terms of calculation uh, is first of all, most of the time of what when I will do examples here is I will round to 4 decimal places. That's going to be pretty much our standard modus operandi, our standard NMO here for the course. Okay, is rounding to 4 decimal places. Just be careful on my math lab there. Okay, just be careful on my math lab there, because sometimes on certain my math lab problems they may ask you to round to 3 decimal places, 4 decimal places, 5 decimal places, 6. So please be sure that you write that out. Again, you read what how many decimal places they would like you to go out, so you're not caught unawares. But for most examples, or for all examples here, I'm going to mostly go out to 4 decimal places to keep it as consistent as possible, as most questions will probably use decimal places as well. Okay. This is why you don't say significant figure. Yeah, significant figures are different than that of decimal places. So they're 2 different topics. Yeah, sig figs are a little bit different. So okay. So that is essentially this is how we calculate relative frequency here, and this is also the question. This is also the answer here for question 3, is how do we make a relative frequency distribution? Well, let's blow the screen up here, and that is this is how we make a relative frequency distribution. Okay, so we write out these decimal equivalents, make sure they add up to 1, and this is essentially how we can add that extra bit to the chart. Okay, all right. Questions about relative frequency? Hopefully that's pretty straightforward. Hopefully, any questions about that? Okay. All right. Okay. So we are. How do I get the 1? Again, Fritz here, you would add up each decimal here together. So the fact that I can understand this makes this a double a dumb. Is that supposed to be dumb lesson? We can't spell dumb correct. Come on, bro. Or a W lesson. Okay, I was gonna say which one are we which one are we gonna? All right, W's, gotcha. Double lesson, a W, gotcha, buddy. Okay, yeah, we add up all the decimals here. Now, we are out of time here for today. I have my next class here is in 45 minutes for this same class. But what I'm going to do here, this example you see here on the screen will be just for this class here. So I'm not going to repeat this for the second class, which is why I'm mentioning the second class here at 6 o'clock. Um, I'm going to save this because I'm going to come back to this same example here for Thursday because we're going to do a little bit more with this example here. So I want to use the same data that you have in your notes, and then we're gonna use this data set here. We're going to use the frequency distribution. We're going to use that to find a few more pieces of data and arrange them together. So we're going to talk about that more for Thursday. But so I'm going to save this here. Let's save this as uh, save it as I don't know a thing. Save the current picture as I don't know. Put it on my desktop things. Let's put it as math sample. All right. All right. There we are. I'll save it to my desktop so it's all there and ready to go. Perfect. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and do that. We're going to stop here for today. All right. Let's go to the big screen here. And we'll come back and we'll start right up with this example about where we left off here for next time. All right. I want to thank everybody here for coming on out here to the stream once again. Thank you so much, everybody. You guys are absolutely fantastic people. 1000% fantastic. Okay. 100%. I'm going to be back on here in 45 minutes for my next class. But if you'd like to join that class, you can. But if you don't, I'll be pretty much just saying the same thing. But I want to thank everybody here. Again, if you're working with the lesson here and you're doing the homework, again, finish off chapter 1 and then do section 2.1. That will be kind of like if you're kind of keeping up with the work there at the same time as the lectures. All right, everyone, thank you very much. I love you all. All of you are absolutely fantastic. All right. Nachioma says, oh, okay. Nachioma says, say something nice for 500 points. Well, Chioma, I want to ask you a question. What do you do, Chioma? What is your job, Chioma, my friend? I'm going to ask you. All right, this will be the last thing I'll do here for this stream. What's your job, Chioma? If you do work, that is. Then I can say something nice. Hey, look. Yeah, he gave me the points. I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna ask what Chioma does, and unless Chioma left, in which case, that's okay. All right. Well, I'll say this about Chioma since he did the points here. I'm just a student. Well, Chioma, there is bright horizons awaiting you. You are you're an extremely hard worker. All right, you put forth the time and the effort, and I'm proud of you for the fact that you look. It's difficult being an international student, but I'm proud of you for the fact that you are investing in yourself and you're putting in the time and the energy to be a better person. And you know, you are a valuable contribution. You will not only be a valuable contribution to yourself and to society, but you'll be a valuable contribution to your family and any future family for hopefully going through this process and hopefully learning more about math and yourself along the way. And so I'm really proud of you that you've decided to undertake this process, even if it's a big transition. You've done well already so far, and I hope to continue to encourage you to do better, to do even more, and be even better as time goes along. That is what you get for 500 points of saying something nice. All right. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you much, Chioma. All right. We will see you all here on Thursday. Again, as always, everybody, stay safe, stay healthy, and most importantly, stay sane, everyone. All right, we'll see you on Thursday, same time, same place, 4 o'clock, and we'll continue moving forward where we left off. Have a wonderful night, everyone, and yeah, rest, relax, and enjoy yourself. All right, take care, everybody. We'll see you later. All right, bye. Bye, everybody. Take it easy. See you later, everyone.